It's one of the most critical jobs in the world. Protecting the President of the United States. But protection is just the tip of the iceberg. Every day, Secret Service agents are fighting a global war on counterfeit. From Washington, D.C. to Miami, to one of the biggest sources of counterfeit cash in the world, Bogota. Go behind the scenes into a high-stakes world never seen before. On the job with the United States Secret Service. Dawn breaks over a small city, 125 miles west of Bogota. The city is just getting ready for the day. But one band of criminals is not ready for their wake-up call. An elite joint force of American agents and Colombian investigators are closing in on a suspected criminal. An economic outlaw. Part of Colombia's vast web of counterfeiters. No one knows who's inside, and they could be heavily armed. Months of surveillance and coordination have all come down to one moment. And it began some 1,500 miles and a world away. Miami, Florida is one of the United States' most multicultural cities, and lures tens of millions of visitors each year. These factors also make it a hotbed for financial crime. Tracking down these criminals is the job of the United States Secret Service. The Secret Service is best known for its high-profile protective detail. But its original mission was to protect not the president, but the economy.
We were created over 145 years ago, and our original mandate was to investigate counterfeit currency. Over the years, that has been one of the backbones of our organization, and as the payment system has evolved, so has our mission.
The U.S. payment system has grown from paper currency to electronic banking, mortgages, and credit. But it's all based on the value of the U.S. dollar. Every counterfeit note is a direct attack on the U.S. economy.
The financial infrastructure of the country, the currency, is at stake. We're entrusted with this investigation, and we do it to the nth degree.
At the Secret Service's Miami field office, agents are specially trained to fight back against these economic attacks. Assistant Special Agent in charge, Pat Bush, heads up the international squad, which is tasked with stopping counterfeit before it reaches U.S. borders.
I oversee the counterfeit squad here in Miami. I oversee the international squad here in Miami. I oversee the Bogota resident office, the Brasilia resident office in Brazil, and also the San Juan resident office in Puerto Rico. I'm probably spending between one and 2 weeks out of the month traveling to these countries.
Travel between Latin America and Miami is easy. So easy that Miami has become a major distribution hub for smuggled contraband, drugs, and counterfeit. The primary point of entry is Miami International Airport, where Pat's office works with Customs and Border Protection to sniff it out.
We've had individuals come in with counterfeit currency that was sewn all over their body, in every single pocket, created pockets in their jackets. And sometimes when you run it through an X-ray machine, you just can't tell that there's counterfeit in it. You really have to make a little tear to determine that, yes, there is currency inside there.
We've seen counterfeit currency come in little statues, computers, secreted in all kinds of suitcases in different compartments, you know, just rolled up very tight. We have seen it all.
In a single week, the Miami field office receives up to $100,000 in counterfeit. The best notes are smuggled in from far south of the border, stuffed into books, magazines, and luggage. To stop counterfeit dollars from entering the U.S., Miami's international agents work with colleagues across Latin America in the heart of the most notorious region for counterfeit production in the world, Bogota, Colombia. This bustling colonial city is well known as the cocaine capital of the world. But it's also the epicenter of a worldwide counterfeit racket, one the Secret Service is determined to shut down. Special Agent Pat Bush has just arrived in Bogota to prepare for an upcoming series of counterfeit raids. Deep inside the U.S. Embassy, he heads to the Secret Service resident office for a briefing from resident agent in charge, Jorge Muniz, and his Colombian team.
The stats show that we're putting a dent here in Colombia without a doubt. And that's based on your efforts, based on the job that you guys are doing.
After Iraq and Afghanistan, the embassy is the third most dangerous in the world. To be posted to Bogota is considered so hazardous, the identities of most of the agents have to be kept classified.
We do consider all of us undercover agents in the sense that we cannot bring up the fact who we work for. We cannot bring up the fact that we're investigators or even police officers in the United States. It would be counterproductive. It would be very dangerous for my safety and my family's safety.
It's a dangerous city. I mean, this is considered a danger post, as we get danger pay for our efforts here. There are still bombings and things of that effect here in the city. Kidnappings, things of that nature. But it's important to us to get to the root of the problem, counterfeiting in Colombia.
The roots go back to the drug wars of the 1980s, when Colombia was in a state of anarchy. Cartels ruled with violence. Gunfights broke out in the streets, killing innocent civilians. Terrorists detonated massive truck bombs, leveling government offices, including the Colombian equivalent of the FBI. The lawlessness made Bogota a haven for criminals, including a growing culture of counterfeiters.
Going back to the late 80s into the 90s, the laws here in Colombia were very different. In other words, if you were caught counterfeiting American currency, U.S. currency, you'd probably get a slap on the wrist.
Counterfeiters teamed up with the violent cartels for protection and financial backing. And drug mules sent to the United States began carrying not just cocaine, but counterfeit cash.
In Bogota, because of the drug trade, there was just a lot of counterfeit currency coming out of there as well. And it's the type of investigation you can't really work remotely. You know, we couldn't work that investigation from Miami. We believed that we had to have feet on the ground.
In 1996, the Secret Service opened a base of operations in Bogota, coordinating raids with the Colombian police to enforce strict new laws against counterfeiting and to fight back against a growing threat to the entire region. In one case, $5 million in counterfeit were deposited in a Peruvian bank. The effect ricocheted across the continent as people raced to sell off their U.S. dollars.
Once that happened, from Peru it spread to Chile, from Peru it spread to Argentina, from Peru to Bolivia, and all the surrounding countries were affected by this. What that meant was that the actual communities began to not trust the U.S. dollar, thinking that's going to be counterfeit. And by that happening, our economy suffers.
Fighting back against the counterfeit epidemic is the Secret Service's Bogota resident office. Armed with months of new surveillance intel, Agent Muniz's team is planning to strike a blow against counterfeiters across Colombia.
What do you got?
We have a suspect which we've arrested several times in the past. He's known for very high-quality 100s in the millions of dollars. They're going to execute warrants on him as early as this week.
Agent Muniz's team in Bogota has had a busy season. By the end of 2009, they had seized over $25 million in counterfeit. A succession of major raids, Operations Cyclone, Diamante, and Tornado, shuttered 3 printing plants and captured over $9 million in 3 months alone. The success of their efforts is due in large part to the cooperation of the Administrative Department of Security, the Colombian FBI. Agent Muniz has come to the DOS office to meet with the top brass about the next round of operations.
Como usted sabe, el año pasado logramos descubrir 19 millones de dólares falsos, más otras monedas. Se vuelven más sofisticados, digamos, en el proceso de producción y nosotros nos tenemos que volver más.
Like the FBI, the DOS is responsible for maintaining the internal security of Colombia. But they also are tasked with investigating fraud and crimes against the state's financial institutions, which is why they work with the Secret Service.
Importante el trabajo que están haciendo los muchachos aquí, el impacto que eso tiene en Estados Unidos. No sé si había enterado, desde el año fiscal 2001 hasta el presente, se ha reducido el número de billetes falsos producidos en Colombia para un 81%. Eso es increíblemente bueno para todos, para Colombia y para Estados Unidos.
The DOS officers form part of the Secret Service's vetted anti-counterfeit task force. And they're gearing up for a string of high-profile raids.
Yo sé que muchos tenían que trabajar durante la Navidad, ¿no? Durante ese tiempo que estaban un poco afuera de su familia.
Tiene planeado para el primer trimestre del año poder finiquitar la investigación más importante que en este momento tenemos, que es un tema que es investigativo dentro de la ciudad de Cali, se dirige desde aquí con la ciudad de Nueva York. Entonces es una red delincuencial, una de las organizaciones delincuenciales con contactos internacionales más importantes que hay en el país.
Now, in a joint operation with the Colombian task force, Agent Muniz is planning a raid on a recently uncovered counterfeit plant. But to take it down, they'll need to assemble a team of agents and investigators skilled in counterfeit and combat. A team of Colombian investigators is about to conduct its first raid. But this team is a long way from Bogota.
Cover right, nice job. Continue in.
Okay, we'll stop there. Okay. Bueno. Okay.
Good job coming in, challenge.
The Colombians are fresh recruits into the Secret Service's vetted anti-counterfeiting force.
You get up there with the shield, lock the guy into a room.
And they're being broken in at the Secret Service training compound outside of Washington, D.C.
There you go.
The training academy is where Secret Service agents learn everything from surveillance and protection to combat tactics and evasive techniques. Agent Muniz has brought a crop of trainees all the way from Bogota to Beltsville to prep them for an upcoming series of counterfeit raids.
What we're trying to basically standardize the way we do business
If he were to stop right here, you would need to cover that.
And we're just trying to teach him some of the techniques that the Secret Service use for entry when we're in a hostile environment.
Stand by!
The narrow corridors and stairwells typical in Colombian buildings can be a deadly trap for an untrained investigator. One of the first tactics they learn is how to navigate what's known as the fatal funnel.
A fatal funnel is one of those areas that we know we're going to get channeled into as a team, whether it's a hallway, but a stairway is particularly bad because if we're trying to go up, we've got to move fast. Go, 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 go! And you're real close, you got guns in your hands, and this is where they've got to work as a team, not stumble, because one guy stumbles, the whole team has got a problem.
Número 6, número 6. Cover this. Fíjate. Okay to come back, 1-2 steps, halfway up, keep on going.
An elite force drawn from 3 different agencies, the Federal Police, the Attorney General's Office, and the Colombian National Police. The investigators have a few days here to learn to work as one well-oiled machine.
The best you could do is protect the team from anybody coming here.
When they get back to Colombia, their survival will depend on it. Finding trustworthy recruits in a country infamous for corruption isn't easy. Each new team member is hand-picked and thoroughly vetted by the Secret Service.
Years ago, when we started working with some of these groups, there's a lot of corruption. We can operate with these guys if we don't trust them or they don't trust us. So part of the process is lie detection test. And once they pass that stage and we have a background investigation within Colombia, they start working with us.
With their training complete, the Colombian crew gets a special behind-the-scenes tour of the Secret Service compound,
This is what we call a parade car.
Including a glimpse of the historic presidential armored fleet.
And it is fully armored. Floor, sides, roof, everything in this car is armored.
They also get a rare opportunity to see the cars in action, performing some defensive driving, Secret Service style. Agent Muniz's counterfeit team is overseen by the Miami field office's international squad.
Do me a favor, have your people check them out.
Heading up their weekly briefing is Special Agent in Charge, Michael Fithen.
I'd like to note that Bogota has increased their arrests by 177%, so my compliments to them.
For the Miami field office, fighting counterfeit comes on top of protecting the president and visiting dignitaries.
For protection, we have 3 protectees in district. We have Haiti, we have the Prime Minister of Belize, and we have the President of El Salvador.
And the counterfeit team is getting busy.
I'm leaving on Sunday for Colombia and in Bogota. Our agents and the vetted units, since fiscal year, October the 1st of this year, they seized $15 million already.
Every day, thousands of dollars in counterfeit notes funnel into the Miami field office. It all ends up here with the Secret Service counterfeit squad. The quality of the notes depends on how they were produced. Some are simple inkjet copies.
With this note, we're basically seeing colored dots creating the whole image,
while others are highly detailed offset print notes.
We do have the simulated thread
that attempt to mimic every security feature of the real thing. The bulk of the offset counterfeit, the highest quality notes, come from Colombian printers. It's up to Jorge Muniz and his Bogota task force to stop it. Fresh from training his new recruits in Beltsville, Agent Muniz stops off in Miami to update Pat Bush on the Colombian team's progress.
So far this fiscal year, how are we doing?
Very well. $50 million just in a few months.
The Bogota office's recent operations were so effective that many Colombian counterfeiters have been forced out of the cities into rural areas. The Secret Service has even tracked them moving across national borders.
We have actually seen Colombians moving into Peru for production. We have cracked down so hard on them in Colombia that they're moving away. So they're actually exporting equipment, exporting plates and negatives to make the actual counterfeiting in Peru.
Back from the U.S., Special Agent Jorge Muniz is preparing for an upcoming raid on a suspected counterfeit plant. To secure a warrant for the raid, Agent Muniz has to meet with the Attorney General's office, where a team has been closely monitoring the suspects.
Estos casos se dan por información que denuncia los ciudadanos o por información de líneas telefónicas.
Una persona bastante avesada en el mundo de la falsificación.
The office confirms that from eavesdropping on wiretapped phone calls, they have all the evidence they need for a warrant.
Y las conversaciones han sido muy positivas frente a la falsificación. Solamente espero que se allegue la dirección del sitio como tal y solamente con ese dato poder expedir las órdenes porque la motivación jurídica ya se obtiene.
The next step is to make contact within the counterfeiting world to get hard details of the operation. The most valuable source for this kind of intel are insiders, people who approach the service with key information about printers and distributors. A confidential informant.
The confidential informants really account for most of the success we've had. Typically, without the help of the confidential informants, we won't be able to find out the information we need.
Informants work hand in hand with dangerous criminals, and trust is always an issue. Informants put their lives on the line to help the service, but not just because it's the right thing to do.
Confidential informants come to us because it's well known that we pay for results. Whoever pays the best compensation is going to have their loyalty for that amount of time. So an informant to us is an informant today. Tomorrow, if the criminal element is paying better, they're on the side of the criminal element.
Making contacts in the world of counterfeiting is a dangerous business. Like the confidential informants, the agents' identities must be kept strictly under wraps.
The fact that we make enemies during these investigations is always a worry for myself because we do deal with a criminal element that at times can be very violent.
Today, Agent X is meeting with an informant who claims to have key information about a number of suspects the team is investigating.
No, él es impresor. Él cayó a principios de diciembre del año pasado.
Yo todavía estoy trabajando, pero de adentro.
Desde adentro. Entonces él quiere continuar con el negocio.
Dentro de la cárcel tiene celular.
Correcto.
The informant is full of good information, but what the agents are really after are details of an upcoming meeting between the local counterfeiter and a financier from another Colombian city, Medellín.
¿Tienes otra información? De pronto lo de Medellín.
Sí. Consideraría hasta donde fuera viable hacer el decomiso en Colombia y normal llevar el equipaje sin ninguna situación hacia los Estados Unidos.
¿Dónde es que ellos quieren esa plata? Si es en Miami.
Correcto.
¿Te compensan a ti aquí?
Sí, correcto.
Como haciendo el trabajo de mula, ¿cierto?
Sí, correcto.
The informant reports that a counterfeit kingpin from Medellín is planning to meet with the printer in the southern town of Cartago.
Vamos a hacer eso. Tú mantente en contacto con él, ¿ok? Se te va a colaborar para que tú le puedas colaborar a él. Déjame trabajar esa información. Déjame ver con los policías para que esto se haga como funcione mejor para todo el mundo y especialmente para la seguridad tuya. Porque de nada me vale que se nos dé este caso y que algo te pase a ti en consecuencia como esto. Dame la información que yo quiero saber quién es ese man.
Okay.
Bueno.
Now they just watch and wait. The Secret Service team could have the perfect opportunity for a major bust. To take out a printer, and a major league criminal financier. But to nail them both, their timing will have to be just right. Somewhere in Colombia, South America, two counterfeiters are about to start a joint venture. What they don't know is that the U.S. Secret Service is watching and listening to every word.
We have a line intercepted. It's been intercepted for a while, so our vetted unit is actually listening to these as we speak. We have two individuals who are now doing surveillance, trying to confirm what the wire is telling us. Timing is essential when we do our operations. If we go too early, we may find ourselves in the middle of production. If we go in too late, obviously, we may go in there and find an empty location with just a printing press and no evidence. So we want to make sure we get all the elements of the criminal all the criminal elements are involved in this. So far, the intelligence looks pretty good. The bad guys are actually doing the final touches on the counterfeit.
Armed with a search warrant and inside information from a confidential informant, Agent Muniz has brought a team from his Colombian task force to Cartago, where they're trying to determine the perfect moment for the bust. The targets, a counterfeit printer and a criminal financier.
Based on the telephone conversations today that were intercepted, the main target still in Medellin.
Through surveillance and intercepted phone calls, the team knows the printer is producing a new batch of counterfeit. But after deciphering overheard code words, it seems the notes are still missing the most important details.
What we interpreted from those code words is that the notes are missing the magnetic strips.
Do you recall what kind of language they're using? What are those code words?
Basically, they call it the magnetic strip. They call in Spanish la cinta de matrimonio.
Cinta de matrimonio.
Like a wedding ring.
Do we know if it's U.S. dollars or do we know if it's pesos or?
No. The target who lives here is known for counterfeiting Colombian pesos. The target from Medellin is known for counterfeiting U.S. dollars. Based on the conversation we heard yesterday, I feel that it could be U.S. dollars.
The security features of U.S. currency are constantly redesigned. At Secret Service headquarters in Washington, D.C., agents see a never-ending array of clever techniques that counterfeiters use to keep up.
Counterfeiters become very comfortable using particular methods and styles of counterfeiting, so the goal is to always make the genuine currency as difficult as possible for the counterfeiter and try to stay one step ahead of the technology that they could be using to counterfeit our currency.
One of the most difficult features for a counterfeiter to copy is also the most basic: the paper it's printed on.
Genuine U.S. currency is a cotton and linen combination that actually has a very distinct feel, and there are red and blue security fibers that are mixed in with the currency paper as it's being made.
Woven into the paper is another tough detail to reproduce: a fluorescent thread printed with microscopic text.
On a genuine bill, security threads should fluoresce a particular color. Typically, on the counterfeits, their security threads do not fluoresce at all.
To avoid having to reproduce real currency paper, some counterfeiters use a simple but clever technique. They bleach lower denomination notes and reprint them at higher values. With a little bleach and some ink, a $5 note can suddenly become $100.
This isn't somebody just doing this on an inkjet printer with just a little bit of expertise. They're using chemicals to bleach out genuine currency, which is defacing our currency, and then they're printing over top of it. If we look up through transmitted light, we're going to see that the watermark is actually of Abraham Lincoln. So our two presidents do not match. The secondary watermark of the president is of Abraham Lincoln, and obviously this doesn't match our 100. So we know this is going to be a bleached note.
Even if a counterfeiter gets the paper right and has a detailed printing plate, a final challenge is hidden in the ink itself. The U.S. Treasury uses a proprietary pigment called optical variable ink, which changes color in different light. Counterfeiters often mimic this effect using the most basic materials, like drugstore glitter.
The counterfeiter is basically trying to cash in on a person or somebody in the public not knowing that the ink should actually change color. If they see it, that it sparkles and it kind of shines to them, then they think that, you know, it might be genuine.
Good counterfeit notes can be passed one at a time. They only need to be good enough to fool the victim. But even bad notes are sometimes passed in bulk through a distribution scheme known as the black money scam. The counterfeiter approaches a victim saying he needs to offload a large sum of what he claims is genuine currency at a discount as low as 20 cents on the dollar. He says the money has been dyed black to avoid detection by police.
The victim is shown as an example how the bills can be completely cleaned in a matter of seconds, and that'll be done with a genuine bill that was dyed black, cleaned in front of them, and given to them as an example. Victims free to go spend it, they'll feel comfortable, they'll gather as much money as they can afford to come back and buy what they think is more genuine currency, dyed in black.
When the victim pays for the currency, they're given a special solution to clean the notes, often a simple combination of water and vitamins, only to discover the cash is all counterfeit. It's the price to pay for doing business in the criminal world. U.S. currency is revamped every 7 to 10 years. And the Bureau of Engraving and Printing consults with the Secret Service to make sure the new notes are as difficult as possible to counterfeit. With each new design, many of the first and best counterfeits come from Colombia.
Counterfeits coming out of Colombia, we've seen those for a long time. The Colombian counterfeiters counterfeiting very large volumes using more sophisticated printing presses, and that alone gives it a much better quality than often what we see on digital counterfeits that come off of inkjet printers. They are definitely above average quality counterfeiters.
After months of surveillance and coordination from Miami to Bogota, the task force is about to make a house call.
Estamos en una situación de peligro y queremos estar totalmente seguros que usted sabe su responsabilidad individual.
Agent Jorge Muniz and his Colombian task force are heading to the home of a suspected counterfeiter.
Sí, ya vamos andando hacia el punto, por ahí 1 minuto y medio. Entonces ahí organizamos. Estoy pendiente.
The team hopes to catch 2 counterfeiters, a local printer and a businessman from Medellin.
Esta es la puerta, que se supone es donde se ingresa a esa tercera planta.
But no one is sure who's inside, and they could be heavily armed.
Es la misma puerta, está por ahí. Entonces procedemos.
It looks like the counterfeiters may have escaped. Then, investigators find the printer, hiding in what looks like his workroom. The business partner from Medellin either wasn't here or he managed to escape.
Venimos de la Fiscalía 276, estructura contra la falsificación de moneda. Por favor, de aquí un poco la cara para que pueda yo leerle. Es una orden de allanamiento y registro ordenada por esta Fiscalía 276 con sede en la ciudad de Bogotá.
Julio, the group leader, is basically reading his rights, the way we do it in the Colombian systems, the equivalent of Miranda rights in Colombia.
Once the warrant is served, the search for evidence can begin. Right away, it's obvious the team is in the right place.
La máquina está limpia.
It's like a 50 Colombian peso, $50,000 deal Colombian peso.
A lot of people think just because find the actual machinery, that is used to do this, it's not necessarily the end of it. There's other elements involved. As you see, the printing plates are attached to this machine, but there's also negatives that are involved in burning these plates. Right now, we haven't been able to find that. We need to find everything else, like negatives, the actual burner, cutters, things like that. All combined makes the actual plant.
The investigators search the house for more conclusive evidence, and it's not long before they find a bounty of fresh counterfeit cash. But it's all pesos.
So far, we've seen no evidence of any U.S. Currency of any sort, but they're going to continue the search.
The investigators begin to document the evidence and discover stacks of unfinished counterfeit pesos. The notes are still missing essential security features the printer's partner was to bring from Medellin.
Based on what we know and based on what we see, we expect the Medellin guy that was coming in on Saturday to do the actual security strip.
While the search continues, a Colombian investigator interrogates the suspect, who seems to know his shop is closed for good.
What I've seen in this interview is a lot of hesitation every time the questions are asked. Basic questions, just like we do with suspects. Where do you live? What's the name of your mother? Things like that. Still, I see a lot of hesitation. He may be giving bogus information for what we know.
To get a strong conviction, the team still needs to find more evidence. The printing plates, negatives, something more than the machine, and the unfinished notes.
We're at the initial stage, basically. The warrant's been served. We're searching. It's going to be an interviewing process with the suspect, and we're going to go from that point on. And we've been to cases where we're looking half an hour into the search. We found the actual package of currency hiding somewhere. So we're not giving up at this point. We're just continuing the search to see if we find what we're looking for.
In Cartago, Colombia, the Secret Service and a team of Colombian investigators are scouring the home of a suspected criminal. they've discovered an offset press and reams of counterfeit Colombian pesos. They even find counterfeit diplomas from the National University. But so far, they have yet to turn up any plates, negatives, or other counterfeiting tools.
No, estamos tratando de ubicar negativos, son negativos, planchas. Entonces esta gente utiliza estos debajo de los cajones, y usan bolsos y muchas cosas para guardar estas cuestiones, como son, se pueden volver.
Also missing is the counterfeiter's partner, a high-level financier the team was hoping to catch in the raid.
Was the suspect the guy that was being listened to on the wire, or was it somebody else?
The guy here is the guy on the wire, so he was always communicating with the other target. It's really hard to get to the guy on top because they stay away from the crime. They never get their hands dirty.
The printer's partner may have eluded them, but an hour of searching finally reveals what they're looking for.
Planchas, planchas para
Rolls of aluminum plates for printing counterfeit pesos. It may not be U.S. currency, but the team has all the evidence they need to convict.
Hay elementos propicios para la fabricación, falsificación de moneda.
Agent Muniz makes a quick call to headquarters in Miami to give Special Agent Pat Bush the results of the raid.
Hey guys, Jorge calling from Cartago here, Colombia. We went in as planned. It turned out to be Colombian pesos. Nigeria is still here with us. They interviewed the suspect. He's cooperating. I'll give you a call later to follow up, but again, he's turned out to be Colombian pesos. I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.
The Bogota office has been so successful, they've reduced the counterfeit that reaches the U.S. by 81%. Even in southern Colombia, the Secret Service is making counterfeiting a risky business.
Because of the work of the Secret Service, along with the Colombian authorities, these people, the counterfeiters, they move to the countryside or to small cities because it's more difficult to get to them in those places. So they think. Now we're getting to them also in the small cities, just such as this city today.
The career of one counterfeiter is over, for now. With Colombia's new, tougher penal code, he won't be coming home for at least a few years.
It could be anything at the bare minimum, probably 3 years. It could be up to 5 years, if not more. Definitely it's going to be a hardship. I mean, not only a hardship for the gentleman himself, for the family. I don't know how much money or if he's got any illegitimate job of any sort. He may be a legitimate printer in town. We don't know that. So it's going to be hard on him, hard on the family.
If he's willing to cooperate, he might get a deal from the DA's office here, and he might turn to, hopefully, an informant for us. The other guys that want the guy, we know he has other operations in Medellin, maybe in other cities. So this is just the beginning.
The team confiscates the printer's equipment and puts another case to rest. But it's just one battle in a never-ending war.
The fact that we are here, if we made progress in what we're doing, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are stopping the process of counterfeiting. We've made a good effort and good success in what we have done. But the moment we start relaxing our efforts, that counterfeit activity is going to go up again.
From fighting counterfeit to protecting the president and the value of the U.S. dollar, agents are at work 24 hours a day. It's It's all part of the sacrifice and reward of one of the toughest jobs in the world. The life of an agent of the United States Secret Service.